This is my sword and shield. I like that. I'm here today in response to the Master's will. And I know that if I'm true, there's nothing that He won't do.
You believe it, don't you?
Amen. Amen. Amen.
So we had an opportunity to sleep in last week.
Yeah.
For all the wrong reasons.
Amen.
Oh, Lord.
Okay, so last week we finished up Jude's instructions to us about, he reminded us that we were in a battle, right? That the Christian life is, I mean, we're in a battle with the enemy. And the title of the last study told us what we needed to do, which was what? We need to take up arms. And not only that, but Jude told us, in preparation for this study, he told us that we needed to do three things in taking up arms. We needed to fight, we needed to contend for the gospel, and then once we get all of that in place, we need to engage the battle. Because we are serving, we're certainly children of God, but we're serving in God's army, aren't we? I mean, we're supposed to be soldiers. Because we can't just ignore false teachers, can we?
No.
And that's what he and Peter have been telling us for quite a while now. We can't ignore false teachers, and according to Jude, they're already here. And as we finished the last study, there were four things that he reminded us of. He said that number one, we should know the Word of God and have the courage to defend it. We should know the Word of God and have the courage to defend it. Second,
Watch and pray.
watch and pray.
Watch and pray. Amen.
What does that saying to us?
Be aware
Be aware,
and keep in prayer.
be aware, and keep it in prayer. What's the next thing?
Be careful where you send your mama.
Be careful who and what you support. That's important. And then he said you gotta be brave about certain things. What is that? He said you gotta be courageous enough to allow yourself to be separated from those who are trying to position themselves contrary to the word. Huh? Those are the folks that Jude said, oh, they're already here. And in his in this stage of the study, meet the apostates. He's now getting down on a level so that he can clearly identify them by doing a couple of things. One, repeating some of the stuff that Peter was talking about, but also adding his voice to the warning. And I guess that's the foundation upon which we'll build today, that Jude is wanting to underscore what Peter warned you of, and then add his word on top of that by saying, they're all around you and I know what they look like. So why do you think he is taking this opportunity to repeat what has already been said before? Why do you think that's happening? Come on, brother.
Many times, it's not that we don't know,
Mhm.
but we begin to take things for granted.
For granted.
And so it's great to hear the word and a reminder in that word
Mhm.
on what we should be doing, what we need to be doing, and question what we are doing.
We're gonna do some back and forth reading through this session. But Philippians 3:1 says that to write the same things to you, to me indeed, is not grievous, but it's for you in order for you to be saved. That's kind of like saying, you know, a hard-headed child needs to have stuff repeated to them
Well, even
more than once.
when kids, you know, when they first start driving and even afterward, before they get in the car, and
Mhm.
you've already told them what to do, and you remind them
Yeah.
that when you're out on that road, A, B, C, D, don't
Yeah,
forget. And you may do it 20 times
Yeah,
to keep it fresh in their mind.
That's right, that's right.
This is
That's
what
right.
we do.
that's right.
And it's a good imprint into your
Mhm.
processing in your brain in terms of how you react when you're separated from those, when you're separated from the teacher, but experience the bad stuff that goes on in the world.
Yeah,
And Rev, I got 2 comments on that.
yeah. Okay.
Well, you know, I can remember my father telling me, you know, repetition can be good.
Mhm.
It can be. And the second that, Miss Wilson tells me things 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 times all the time.
She puts it in practice for you.
She's in practice room.
Yeah, so that's a good thing, man. And that's what Jude is saying, you know, he's saying, you know, don't tune it out
Correct.
because you've heard it before.
Correct.
There's always some new knowledge and repeated information, isn't it? You know, it's kind of like reading the word. You know, you don't get it all in the first reading.
Correct.
Depends on where you are in life. That you're able to look a little deeper into something that, I mean, I remember stuff now that my mother told me
Yes.
way back when. That I thought I wasn't listening, but, you know. Oh, so that's what you meant. And of course, Jude has already told him, you know, you gotta contend for the gospel, and you have to contend for it because ungodly men has, and we talked about that word last time we were all together, has crept in. You know, they don't come in kicking down the door, they slide in. And so he's saying, you know, I have to remind you that that there's a righteous condemnation for allowing yourself to be caught up in the wrong things. This whole study here is taking a pattern after 2 Peter 2, 10 through 17. And the first part of our study here, Jude is talking about the fact that several things that they do that put them in jeopardy. First thing he says is that they reject divine authority. Somebody read verses 8 through 11 of Jude.
Yet, even knowing this, these dreamers in the same way pollute themselves, reject authority, and slander the angels. The archangel Michael, when he argued with the devil about Moses' body, did not dare charge him with slander. Instead, he said, "The Lord rebuke you." But these people slander whatever they don't understand. They are destroyed by what they know instinctively, as though they were irrational animals. They are damned, for they follow in the footsteps of Cain. For profit they give themselves over to Balaam's error. They are destroyed in the uprising of Korah.
So they are loose with their tongues. I guess we could say it like that. They speak evil of the people that God has put in place. In my reading, it says they speak evil of dignitaries, those in authority. No respect. And we've talked about that before, because we're living in that time right now and seeing it live and in living color. No respect. What is this position of authority? What does that kind of suggest to us? What kind of person is that? Supposed to be a person of great dignity. And scripturally is referring to people who are serving in a glorious kind of way. You know, when you rise to those kinds of positions of authority with the understanding that you're stepping into a role that God has prepared for you, you're supposed to be doing the right things. Huh? And if you're not, we're supposed to be wise enough to know, number one, that you're doing the wrong thing, and number two, that it ain't up to me to be there when you pay the price, but the price is going to be paid. It can, it also shows that they don't even respect the angels. They don't even respect the ones that are clearly identified as being servants of God. Do we see that now? One quote said, "Those who are against authority must first understand what it means to be under authority." And I guess that could hold true for the people who are in authority as well, right?
Yeah.
Have you ever run up against anyone that in authority but clearly have no clue about what it means to be under authority?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Talk to me. What kind of personality?
Dictatorial.
Dictatorial.
Arrogant,
Arrogant.
Selfish.
very.
Can you hide it?
No, it's their basic nature.
For a while.
For a while.
Comes out somehow.
It might look like
But they don't
they
be
know what
trying
they're
to hide
talking
it,
about.
that's the problem.
Mhm.
I am in charge. And you are my subordinate. Let's not get that confused. Yeah.
There's that culture that's been taught that I'm better than you. And it, to me, connects with what we're talking about, because if you're under authority, then you are responsible, accountable to God. But I saw it and see it in kids where mama has said, or dad has said, that you are the cat's meow, you are going to be wonderful people and do great things, but here's how you have to get there. And so it becomes that being not responsible or accountable to our God, or being taught that you're accountable to God.
I think it becomes especially difficult when you're in a position that creates that kind of environment, which are many. And where leadership, where you are in authority, it is the I, those are your subordinates. There are many different professions that teach that. And so if you're weak in your faith and not understanding what being under authority, you're much more prevalent to fall into that devil's grasp, Satan's grasp of misdirecting and not being the leader you're supposed to be.
Yeah. Because being in authority and not understanding what it's like to be under authority will cause you to get power crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, it's an easy trap, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Because it's so seductive, I think. Power is so seductive.
Yeah.
You ease into it, and then you think, I'm really in control of this thing, and I can demand A, B, C, D.
I think that's what we're running into with all the the police incidents where they're abusing their authority, and that's, they lost their way somewhere
Yeah.
along the line.
Yes. They-
It used to be you could apprehend and do things and shoot at the last, as a last resort, but now that's the first resort, so.
Yeah.
It goes back to that teaching, though, when we think about historically, where our cultures have evolved. You know, Curtis is talking about police thinking before they shoot, but I'm also thinking about those individuals who have run rampant throughout the South, and they didn't like what was going on, so they hung somebody or just threw them in a grave and be done with it.
Yeah.
So,
And yes,
again, it's been taught.
Was it yesterday, we saw the pardoning of those 9, and so we think things happen, but they can get, yeah.
Yeah.
And they were just sitting, asking for something to eat.
And this false teacher, remember, this is the person in authority, but attempting to lure you into what they believe to be a new interpretation of what we know to be the gospel truth. And so as a way for them to do that, it seems like Jude is letting them know that they'll probably come at you in a passive kind of way, knowing where they're really going to take you. So in other words, they make you feel like you're making a significant contribution, but all at the same time, they got a whole different plan for you. You ever run into people like that? In authority. Where you're talking to them about a specific assignment to do God's will, but in their eyes you can see that they taking it all in, but there's another plan going on.
Kind of a skill to even pretend like they're listening to you.
Yeah.
You begin to think that they're listening to you and they're hearing what you're saying.
But in the world, that's part of what it takes to get there, isn't it? You heard such thing like, never let them see you sweat.
Oh, yeah.
You know, a good idea is the one you can take from somebody else and make it your own later on.
And make you believe it was yours.
And make them believe it's yours. Sometimes they wait a long period of time, but depending on how good the idea is, it may come back to you on the next meeting. As if it's a new thought. I find myself guilty of that even at home. Catherine would tell me sometimes, I just told you that. So, that's not your idea. Guilty. I mean, what do you do with, what are we supposed to do when we encounter that in the service of God with this false teaching? Or this spirit that is attempting to move us in directions that are contrary to what we know to be the gospel truth? How do we deal with it?
Well, first is understand and be aware of it, you know, and
Know the word.
to recognize it, yeah, based on the word and so forth. So
And the author says you must be sober and vigilant. You know, you don't give up. You just keep pushing at it. But you do that in the context of knowing the word.
Yeah. And Jude says, and one quote says, they are dreamers.
Right.
They believe Satan's lie that you too can become a god. You know, that's how those ministries run off on their own and start their own thing. You know, they want to become gods. Remember early on they said that you know, they'll take the truth and dress it up so that it reflects something that you're more familiar with. Make you feel good about whatever it is you're looking for in the Word, and then once they got you, then they really begin to indoctrinate you into what their interpretation of little God is inside of them. Is this making sense? They say all kinds of things, as it read in verse 10 and 11. They say it and have no regret. Talk about authority. Talk about direct appointees, the angels of God, and they have no remorse. And I suppose you got to be that way to be convincing. You know, if you're saying something and the look on your face suggests that you are rethinking your actions, nobody's going to follow you. So they have no remorse. Second Peter 2 verse 12 suggests that their natural knowledge is what corrupts them. I'm sure he's not talking about the fact that you can't go and become knowledgeable about a whole bunch of things. But when you give in to that all the alphabets after your name suggest that you have a deeper and better understanding of the Word of God than the Word of God. That's what get them into trouble.
But you know, I see that as being assisted along by us.
Thank you.
Because there's somewhere in Scripture it talks about this too. Where when we see the educated, or he who we think's educated, the PhD, there's nothing wrong with education, right? But it's whether it's abused or not. And we are the ones who put that person up on the pedestal. We help them come into the church, and they don't have a little money now, and you donate a little money to the church. Now we just we roll out the red carpet, blue carpet.
That sounds like country preaching.
So we truly have to be cautious ourselves. And I had never thought about this, and this happened in this church. Not the red carpet, guys. But
Well.
yeah. But you know, if you are a preacher and you come to another church and then you go off on your own and start having your sessions, bringing in the congregation, and you haven't even spoken to the head pastor, senior pastor, it's kind of like somebody coming in your house and controlling your family. But we allow this type of stuff because we jump on the wagon with the person that's doing it. So that's what I mean, part of the things I mean that we contribute to that apostates organization.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And no question about it. And we get to that because the author points out and others that there's a part of human nature that just embrace lies. You know, there's a natural inclination on the part of man to want to follow what sounds too good to be true. And in the case of what Jude's pointing out, Jude is saying in the beginning of verse 11, what does he say? Woe to them. Now, he's not suggesting that he's predetermining what's going to happen to him, right? Because he's already said, only God can do that. So it's like he's throwing up a stop sign, saying, caution, don't. And he's saying caution because I'm about to remind you of something, which speaks for itself.
Yes.
And the first thing he reminds them of, and you know the group that he's talking to know all there is to know about Cain, right? Right? Caution sign. Remember Cain?
Yeah.
Now, what does that automatically tell him when he refers to the way of Cain?
One of the things that I had the thought process was that Cain wanted to do his own thing as opposed to God's way. Because his
Right.
brother was doing God's way and Cain was doing his way.
Yeah.
So it's like, don't go on your own. You're headed down the wrong path. Yeah.
I think he was also telling about jealousy, power, and the evilness
Mhm.
of jealousy and what it does to an individual.
Yeah. Because in case Cain, he had it all, right? It's all right there for him. He knew the deal, but he wanted something more. He wanted all that he could get, plus what his brother got. That's a. As individuals, in our humanness, we have to fight against that, don't we?
Yes.
All the time.
Yes.
Because, first instinct, until you get to where we fully understand it, is me. What can I get out of this? How can I set this up to get a better outcome? Not wondering, understand the fact that God's already worked it out. And what I need to do is be comfortable and prepared to accept whatever it is He's prepared for me. Cain did works of evil. Did he act out of faith? What he did, was he doing it out of faith, or was he doing it with the understanding that he was doing wrong? What do you think?
Well, if he was done out of faith, then we'd be saying that God blessed them to go in that direction. God wasn't blessing them to go in that direction. So we come back to the conclusion that he was doing his own. Come back again, he's doing his own thing. In order to think that he's gaining something. And I guess that's why we do. That's why we lie, because we think we're going to get something. But if God has it for us, we're going to get it.
Yeah, that's right. So Jude is not only telling them about it, but he's holding up an example for them to put up against whoever these false teachers are.
He knew what he was doing because he tried to build a community, a city, and he also tried to establish a civilization. So he knew what he was doing. Kind of, the author says he was a fugitive. He was running from God's judgment.
And in this comparison with Cain, he's focusing on the inside. Because those actions are things that happen internally. So even though you may not see the outward manifestation of the problems they're creating yet, you got to know that it's on the inside, and here's the comparison for you. And then his next step is to talk about the visible aspect of it. Right? Who did he use to reflect that?
With the way of
Balaam. Now, is there a more outward expression of inward rejection of God than this guy Balaam? What was his problem? He wanted to get paid, didn't he?
big.
He wanted to get paid. That's just a comment. I think I said it before. Outward observation, making no judgment. But it's hard for me to reconcile working in God's business and being assessed as personal wealth is 250 times greater than any member in your congregation. You know, it's amazing to me that that information associated with the ministry is tied to the net worth of the pastor. I saw a listing. Net worth of a pastor in America, almost $50 million.
Top 10.
Hmm?
The top 10 black pastors, black ministers in America. Top 10.
Yeah.
To me, that's amazing. You know,
And then,
I know I'm a neophyte, and I know that I'm Pollyannish in a lot of things. In that, I'm just blown away.
But to me, it's interesting that we all worship a man that we say had nothing.
Mhm.
No material
Yes.
things, just clothes on his
Yes.
back.
Yeah.
But you have to have, you said 250?
you have to have your own jet, you have to have your own compound, and that sort of thing. And it's interesting to me because my aunt's church in New Jersey has co-pastors, male and female, and they each drive gold Escalades. And I'm serious. And they're very proud of it. The congregations, the congregants
Yeah.
are very proud of the fact that they're able to maintain their pastors in that manner. And I said, something's wrong with this picture, but I'm looked at like, because they actually support that idea.
Yeah, yeah.
Two goals.
We got two meetings going.
Yeah, one dysfunctional conversation, one intelligent.
Yeah.
But it's symptomatic of what you see a lot of, the idea that, and I've shared this before, that if I've listened to this minister, and he's a good teacher on Sunday mornings when we're getting dressed. And it seems now that you move from just members to partners. You get to be a partner, you get a hand stamp. You don't get a stamped letter from the minister. You get a hand signed letter, but you got to contribute a certain amount. So the more you give, the closer you get. It's kind of what I call it, and it's very troubling for to me if young kids are listening and watching what we say and do, and your money is supporting that kind of thing, and you're actually encouraging it, and you're very pleased about it.
Yeah.
And these are people who've been in the church for years. They're good people, but I think they're so misdirected because the fact that you're able to provide all this stuff doesn't give you better teaching.
Yeah.
And it doesn't give you better modeling.
That's right.
That's right. And we're not passing judgment on individuals. We're talking about the
The
actions.
Yeah.
And that's what Jude is pointing out. When you see this, then you need to evaluate and remember the lesson that you learned and look at it as to whether it's in line with what God really wants to happen.
Yes.
That's what's been said here about this this greediness that was demonstrated in the life of Balaam. Because what happens is that others who are in the pathway of serving God will see this and think, oh, that's what I want. You know, so it takes their mind off of being truthful and powerful in the Word to how do I get to, somebody said a gold, what?
Escalade.
How do I get that
Two.
gold?
How do I get to?
Yeah. So, and that's what Balaam said. You know, don't go for that. And when you see it, you know, don't allow yourself to get aligned with trying to achieve that, because the one sitting at the top, the false teacher, that's his lure. And if that's in your heart, then you know you haven't quite gotten there yet. Balaam. Not only did it, as the word points out, not only did it affect him, but he put a stumbling block in the whole nation, didn't he? Remember what he told them? Yeah, he had them going, go ahead and take your wives. He hooked them up on the pleasure side. And he's the man of God.
That's why everybody needs some accountability.
Yes.
When you let people, I don't care if they're ministers at the top or pew, in the last pew in the church, when you allow it, you're sanctioning it. You're giving sanction to it, to me.
That's right.
And somebody needs to say enough already. I don't care who you are, it's enough.
Yeah,
You can't get away with it.
And you can't
Instead of feeding it.
that's right.
You can't challenge the authority indiscriminately because you come off as contentious
Mhm.
and argumentative.
Mhm.
But
Okay.
you know the word, and so you use that as your foundation in order to challenge the teachings that you've experienced. And I think that is where the success comes through, you know, with the power of Christ, that you are sending a message that here's the word, this is what I see, this is what I understand. Help me to understand why you're saying this or doing this or being this.
Mhm.
When we see things that we don't like, keep in mind that which we tolerate, we encourage.
That's right.
You're saying,
And I guess Jude is saying, you know, you have to evaluate your heart. You know, if there's something that is in your heart, and this false teacher is able to see what that is, he's gonna give you that to get you in. Because once you get what you want as part of his training, he's got you. Because you're never gonna say to him, because you're depending on him now, hey, look, you know you're doing that wrong, because you know he'll cut your head off. And whatever your heart's desire is, that's not in accordance with what the Word of God is, and you're out there receiving it all, it's going to be difficult for you to walk away from that. You know, I've seen people on jobs in corporate world where they were being treated like animals. You know, maybe they had authority at one point, and now they're locked into a corner.
Yeah.
And you wonder, why are they staying there taking that?
Right.
Well, they've been boxed in the corner and can't afford to do anything else.
They get to keep the title.
Huh?
They get to keep the title.
Get to keep the title.
and the resources that come with
Yeah.
that.
Put the
name
Not
on
the
the door.
resources.
Just the
Just the
resources.
Just
Just the title.
They get moved to a smaller desk out of their
That's right.
office,
Yeah.
and they're still sitting there,
Yeah.
being demeaned.
And they're paying the price.
Absolutely.
And you know, I think I see this many times. In conversations, first time you meet a person,
Mm-hmm.
and we always try to do this introduction deal. And listen to when you say, well, who are you? And they start telling you about they are the CEO and the blah, blah, blah. I don't care. Who are you? You know,
Yeah.
because that's not really telling me anything. But we live based up on that position and title. And it's just not civilian side of the house. I mean, we do it in the ministry side of the house. We do it in the military side of the house. It's what you wear, and so it's that type of thing to say. Matter of fact, I've never heard. Not even I don't do it either. I'm a follower of Christ. When somebody asks me who I am,
Yeah.
but that's literally what I should
Start out there.
should start off with.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, and you see the same thing in obituaries.
Mm.
Talking about the following of Christ, whoever, that comes at the last part.
Yeah. After the family.
Yeah, after you talk about that you've got this position for 50,000 years,
Mhm.
as opposed to putting it on the front part. Because you know, when you're writing a paper, where do you put the important stuff? At the end or the beginning?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, But we don't do it.
No, you make a very good point.
Yeah.
And so Jude is saying, first of all, here's a caution for you. Whoa. Because things will be happening on the inside that you ought to be paying attention to with the teachers. And see how the outward manifestation of what they say, what they do, is lining up with God. And then secondly, you look on the outside and see how they're living. Are they operating with the attitude of Babel? Selling out? He says because the end result of all that is that they have already been destroyed in Korah's rebellion. You remember that story, right? They went up against.
No.
Yeah, they went up against the authority of who?
Moses.
Had a whole little gang. What was it? 200-300 of them. And caused a problem.
This is where Moses was going to. They were dealing with his brother.
Dealing with both of them. Moses was in judgment. You remember they called them all out?
Yeah.
Say, well, come out here. Let's talk about this. Let's figure this out because you guys are wrong. Stood up to them, didn't they? What was the price they paid?
They were killed.
Yeah.
The earth opened up.
First, Moses said, "Everybody, get away from them.
Yeah.
Get away." I'm not literally interpreting this, but you know what. Get away from them. Something's about to happen. Right? And so those who bought into the game, receiving all the outward benefits, thinking the same way on the inside, they all disappeared. And it wasn't just them. Remember the ones that had the incense burners?
Oh, yeah.
They standing on the outside thinking they escaped.
They were, yeah.
What happened to them?
Save the burner and suck
God
it
burned them
in.
up. So now you don't get away. You just because you see wrong and allow it, you're not in the camp, but you're on the outside observing it and let it happen. You don't escape either, because you didn't call it into account.
Goes back to what Brother Malloy said, that which we tolerate, we encourage.
That's awesome, isn't it? Is that good enough warning for us? Particularly if we're in a leadership role. But that's a huge battle to speak truth to power. You think about life from a child until you return to glory. That's a major thing to overcome, speaking truth to power.
Got any suggestions?
Step out there. Yeah. Do it. Take the arrow. I mean, that's the only thing I can say. Since you asked the question, how do you feel when you're unable to speak truth to power? How do you personally feel when you're unable to do that? It sounds like you got some experience at that. Somebody in the room does. I can tell you how I feel. What do you think? Have you ever encountered that kind of situation? Where you backed away from? How do you feel?
How do you feel when somebody says, somebody ought to put you in your place? A manager, an executive says that to you.
Says that to a subordinate?
Yeah. And the subordinate, you got a couple of options you can do, and there's no hole for you to drop into. You just hope that something happens because there's almost nothing you can do. Standing there waiting for something to fall on you. Good news is that person is off doing something else somewhere else.
Yes.
Because he said it once too often.
Yeah. My old Baptist preacher uncle used to tell me that whenever you face a situation like that, begin the process of leaving so that when it's time for you to go, it's a parade and not a procession.
Yeah.
I used it on my career. You know. Yeah. How can I turn this into something good for you? Because I know you want me to go. And so when it get to that time when it's time to pull the trigger, I can come to you and say, hey, look, you know, I found something else. And, you know, and I know the direction that the department want to go, and I know you like such and such for this job, and so I think I'm going to change my. Oh, great, Lou, we're going to throw a party for you.
Would you repeat that so I can think what you were saying?
What did I say?
Begin the process of leaving?
Okay. Yeah, begin the process of leaving so that when the time comes, it's a parade and not a procession.
Yeah, I've had that speech.
Oh, yeah?
I made that speech.
Yeah. Because, you know, folks, they really,
I love that.
they can really get sad face and all that. How bad they hate to see you go, and, you know, when they're pushing you.
But they had a party.
Yeah.
We got to leave.
Yeah, but before you close the door, if you look back, your name is already coming off the door. You know.
That's interesting that you say that. I think about the procession. And, you know, leaving the alternative high school as I did.
Yeah.
They, well, it's all entangled. I'm trying to separate it in my mind. But the culmination of that was, it was the right time. My counsel was great. And so I left with an advantage. I didn't know that I was advantaging at the time. I didn't know that. Then the school closed, which was another phenomenon. So for me to step back, as you asked the question, I was thinking to step back and let God handle that and create, you know, the whole concept of leaving. And, you know, I wasn't invited to come back and start it all over again, but the school closed, and there I was, retired and happy like a pig in slop, and the things were going well. So
Parade.
it was a parade, yeah, not a procession.
Very simple.
Easy.
You're right. Very easy. So part of the, and we'll close on this one, part of the warning that we get is saying that a lot of this is wrapped up in how we speak, or how we follow the instructions of others who are speaking. Because, you know, the tongue is a mighty weapon.
Yes, it is.
Yes, sir.
Speaking of reading other things, somebody turn to James,
Let me go say it.
chapter 3, and somebody read verses 2 through 12.
Just the name.
Huh?
Just the name. I do it. They come up the same.
You were thinking James?
Yes.
James what?
3,
2
2.
through 12.
For in many things,
Go ahead.
No, please.
for in many things we offend all. If any man offend not in word, the same as a perfect man, and able to bridle the whole body. Behold, we put bits in the horses' mouths, that they may obey us. We turn about their whole body. But also the ships, which though they be so great and are driven of fierce winds, yet are they turned about with a very small helm, whithersoever the governor listeth. Even so the tongue is a little member and boasteth great things. Behold, how great a matter of little fire kindleth, and the tongue is a fire, a world of iniquity. So is the tongue among our members, that it defileth the whole body, and setteth on fire the course of nature, and it is set on fire of hell. For every kind of beast, and of birds, and of serpents, and of things in the sea is tamed, and hath been tamed of mankind. but the tongue can no man tame.
Forget it.
It is an unruly evil, full of deadly poison. Therewith bless we God, even the Father, and therewith curse we men, which are made after the similitude of God. Out of the same mouth proceeded blessing and cursing. My brethren, these things ought not so to be. But the fountain send forth at the same place sweet water and bitter? Can the fig tree, my brethren, bear olive berries? Either vine figs? So can no fountain both yield salt water and fresh.
That's a pretty good caution sign.
Yes, it is.
And it isn't just for incoming, it's for outgoing as well, right? We gotta be conscious of that. And even in the brethren, go to James 4 and read verses 11 and 12.
Speak not evil one of another, brethren. He that speaketh evil of his brother and judgeth his brother speaketh evil of the law and judgeth the law. But if thou judge the law, thou art not a doer of the law, but a judge. There is one lawgiver,
All right.
able to save and to destroy.
Yes.
Who art thou that judgest another?
Very good. That's for us.
Judge not, lest ye be judged.
Unless you can judge. You're not the lawgiver nor the judge. And next week when we come back, we're gonna deal with a courtroom setting where we'll talk about the judge, the jury, the sentence, and the order after that. Okay. Yes, sir.
Since you got this time, can I just read one verse?
Yeah.
One of my favorites. James 2:13 says, "But he shall have judgment without mercy, that have showed no mercy, and mercy rejoiceth against judgment."
Very good.
And that verse just says that whatever mercy you show is the mercy you're going to receive, so you get to set the bar.
Yeah.
What's that, James 2?
2:13.
Here it is.
Yeah.
There will be no mercy and judgment for anyone who hasn't shown mercy.
Okay, did I miss anything? Looks like we're gonna spend a little time on 8 through 16. Now, all minds clear?
Yes, sir.
All
Yes,
minds
yes.
Amen, all right.
Such a joy.
Back.
Yeah,